for some reason, I don't know, I get the strange feeling that N's maybe are Asian or something. I don't know, I'm probably wrong, but like I don't feel like I've never met an ENFP. Like, not a black one. And not a white one either, actually. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, so I'm in the South. So I just don't see a large demographic of people. And my daughter she's ISTP, and she tells me all the time, like, Mom, you're not in the part of the world where these people hang out. Like, I'd probably have to be in Cali or something, or like different parts of the world. But Birmingham is, it's a pretty SJ land. But anyway, back to you. So I was like, he's got to talk to me because I was looking at your video, the one trying to compare ENFPs with INTPs, and I was like screaming stuff out at the computer. I was like, I can just call him. You were asking a question about what's the difference between why is an ENTP so rebellious versus an ENFP. I want to say this quickly before, like I shut you down with all my ranting, that the reason it appears that way is because TI is a rebellious function. My daughter's TI first, and she's always been super rebellious. They never take anything at face value, and they're not. TI is a function. TI is a troubleshooting function. So it's going to see what's wrong first. It's not that it's trying to be rebellious. It is just that it sees what's wrong. It sees what's missing. It sees what's crappy. It sees all the, I don't want to say it's a sad, narcissistic, sadistic function, but it could be that way if you don't have balance. Whereas FI is sad in its own way because FI sees stuff wrong emotionally, but FI doesn't have the balls to do what TI does. TI is going to put it out there, whereas FI is going to keep it all in because we're really not able to extrovert our feelings like that. And we don't even have words to talk about how intensely we feel things. But I don't know if you've ever read the article called The TE Bitch Slap, but it's about when TE steps in to help FI out in the ENFP. And so when I'm having a moment and my FI is hurting or somebody has stepped on a value, my TE is going to step in and knock fire from them, because when NE and TE get together, they are fire, and they're going to light up whoever has messed with FI. So with FI is rebellious in its own way, because if you step on the FI value, FI is more stubborn. It's going to be like, I don't even know. Like, my daughter will ask me something, we'll have issues, and she'll ask me, like, well, why do you feel that way? I'm like, I don't know, but that's how I feel, and I know I'm right, because I'm never wrong when I'm on my feeling side. And so she's like, that's so dumb. Like, you can't even explain, like, because TI needs you to be able to logically explain why you believe what you believe. And so I don't really have a strong logic side. And so I say stuff like, I don't know why I feel that way, but I'm usually right. And so we have these huge, oh wow, it's like you could be in the room with
Here's the thing. First of all, let me say, I want to start a little video here and point out that this individual I'm talking on the phone with called me randomly out of the blue. I used to tell people on videos all the time, just go ahead and call me if you feel like it. I mean, my phone number is available, The only people who ever call me, I swear the only people who ever call me are ENFPs. They're the only ones who take me up on it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Everyone else is too shy or something. Everyone else is too shy. Anyway, she called me, and she is bleeding any all over the place. I haven't gotten a word in edgewise since I answered the phone. Anyway, this is the kind of shit I love. I love talking with famous people because I get a random call from some lady in Alabama in the middle of the afternoon, and she just starts rolling in about her conflict with her ISTP kid, which is naturally occurring because, of course, FI is the judgment of personal interest, and TI is the judgment of disinterest. So in other words, for TI it goes, let's pretend nobody had any feelings and figure out what the right thing, most fair thing to do is. FI goes, it's impossible to understand any situation by pretending that, because those of us who are introverted feelers have a particular intense personal experience that is legitimate beyond your approximate rules that TI is producing. So that's why you guys have a lot of conflict. My woman, Kimberly, her son's an ISTP, and her son basically rhetorically beat her about the house until I showed up, because her third function TI was no match for his first function TI, but his first function TI was no match for my NE TI because he's got SE. And so once I got here, that was the end of that. That was the absolute end of that, and he moved out within like a month, and now they get along great, and he's nice to her and stuff. Why? Because his supervisor type, ENTP, is there.
Can be a bully. Like it can be the worst. I'm like, he is a bully too. I mean, but he is like a part of it's in my function stack, so I can get down with them because my NE can blow TE away. But like it's so ticky and it's so personalized. It's freaking logic. It's personal logic.
It's not personal, like okay? Listen, right? That's 7th slot TI talking. That is 7th slot TI talking. Because you can only understand.
It's subjective.
It is not. It's object. No, I don't agree with that. It's objective. You know how we know that for sure? Because something can be valid even if it's untrue. For example, if I say all pigs oink and I am a pig, then I must oink. If I say all pigs oink and I say I oink, then it's not necessarily the case that I'm a pig, because I can oink and not be a pig. For an introverted feeler, they go, yeah, but it's subjective because you're not a pig, or I don't know what you guys think. But
it's subjective in the way that it's narrow. I tell my daughter all the time, she's narrow-minded. My NE can't take it, because my NE can see possibilities that my daughter can't see with the eye. She is so narrow-minded.
It's an object-subject thing, okay? Listen, you're a subject experiencing subjective FI, which is to say, there's no way anybody else can feel your feelings and know what they are. And like you said, you can't turn them into objects well. You can't come up with words to explain what they are because they don't define like that. They don't define in an exclusionary fashion. They don't say, to be a feeling of love, you must have no anger in there. It doesn't work like that because lots of people feel mixed emotions all the time, right? So they aren't subject to contradiction. And it's not subject to contradiction. TI is all about objects, things that are subject to contradiction. Now, it is objectively so.
TI is still subjective. Like if you look at MBTI, if you look at sociology, all of their definitions is that TI and FI are very closely related in the sense of subjectivity.
But that's wrong. But that's wrong. I will explain to you exactly why that's wrong, okay? Let me explain it right here. Look, it's wrong because to observe is to establish a distinction. And a subject is that which observes. An object is that which is observed. And some objects are never subjects, like words or statements. Moral agents are subjects capable of self-observation. Amoral agents are those incapable of objective self-observation. And non-living agents are those that cannot observe. All objective observations are communicable. To communicate an observation, the experience must be first rendered into an approximate object. That's what words are. Now, because they're objects, they have clearly distinct boundaries. The reason people suggest that TI is subjective is because they misunderstand. All processes occur within the subject, but not all processes refer back to the subject. And things that refer back to the subject are subjective because only the subject can get that to which they reference. Whereas things that are objective refer to things outside of the subject in a disinterested fashion. So if your child says to you, Mom, but that's not reasonable because you said blah, and that means blah, and therefore you can't also say blah because that's contradictory. What he's saying is you have rendered objects that are defined and set and concrete, and they mean one thing and not the other. That's how we know when something is true or false. And these distinctions are real and concrete, and they matter a lot. And you're going, no, they're not real and concrete. They're just abstractions within you. They're subjective. However, that misunderstands the nature of subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity and objectivity do not refer to where the thing occurs.
And socionics say that TI is subjective.
Because they're wrong.
You don't have to explain it.
Because they're wrong.
What I'm saying is, like if you look at NE, I look at NE as truly objective. NE does not make any judgments.
Right, that's what makes it not objective. Objectivity and subjectivity are ways of judging.
Right, but NE doesn't judge.
So it's not objective or subjective. Only judgments can be objective or subjective.
Okay, and so so what you're saying is that TI is a judgment function that is objective.
Yes, it doesn't make it more right, okay? It doesn't make it more legitimate.
I got you.
It just means that...
Okay, so, but you're saying that TI and FI and TE and FE are judgment functions.
Right.
But you're saying that TI is objective,
right,
whereas FI is subjective.
Right.
You're saying that TE is objective.
No, TE is subjective. TE is subjective because, again, people misunderstand these words. They think objective means more believable, more true, more legitimate. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means
so
is that
all the four judgment functions are. You're saying that out of the four judgment functions, only TI is objective?
No, TI and FE are objective. TE and FI are subjective, and the reason is because
FE
it's objective. Because why? Because it looks at the object, the other person's emotions, and turns it into an object, namely a representative of that, such as Joe's mad at me. Now, Joe is not anything in a static state. He's not, I am mad. I have a label on me that says mad at Eric. He might have been mad at me when I noted that, but maybe his madness at me is past. But the object doesn't note that change of time. It's set. It's inaccurate. It's approximate, okay? FE and TI use inaccurate, approximate, well-defined things to understand the world. FI and TE link to personal interest. So your TE solves what your FI produces as a goal. And the goal is always going to link to your personal interest.
So you're saying the MBTI and sociotic stuff is totally backwards. That is not what they say.
Right. They think that the extroverted functions are objective and the introverted functions are subjective. It's not like that because the extroverted function TE, the reason we know it's not objective is because if I say to you, that's good or bad TE, it's entirely dependent on what your personalized goal, individualized goal was. So if, for example, you said that was bad TE because when you were making that chair because you ended up stapling that thing over there onto that other thing and making another.
I know what you're saying. Because TEs and bosses and basically their goals are very, very subjective. I get what you're saying, and I've never thought about it like this before. Like, this is new. So you got to give me a minute to think.
I get it. Hey, you're more open-minded than most about it, okay? I tell you, I'm resisting. I didn't carry a lot of resistance about this.
I told my daughter, I told her, NE is huge. Anything is possible to NE. So, like, you're just, now, if somebody else was listening to this, they'd be like, what the crap? Like, this is insane. But for me, like, I can totally see it that way, too. And I totally grasp what you're saying for some weird reason. But it's the NE in me.
But this is what you should say to your kid. This is what you should say to your kid next time you get one of these conflicts where he's hammering, right? I know how to be the hammer. I'm the hammer all the time. No, you said this, but that means blah, and this means blah, you know? When he's doing that, you say, listen, I concede that on your metric, you have legitimacy. What you fail to understand is that our metrics, though they are different, are equally legitimate.
Exactly.
That's what you got to tell him. You just got to tell him that. Because
she's a big deal.
Oh, she. Sorry, I called her he.
So she has the mindset. I am her mommy. So she grew up with the NE mommy. So it's totally, she has to be a little more. Now my husband is ISTP too, and we obviously do not live together because that is just the most. When it says it's a conflictor relationship, like we're fine as long as we have distance. He's a trucker, and we don't have any issues as long as he's like on the road. But it is a conflictor relationship, and it takes everything inside of you to be respectful of the function. And once you understand the function, even on a basic level, you can be more respectful. And like, FI is not my daughter's strong suit. That's her weakest function in some, either in MBTI or sociology. Like, FI is very weak for her. And so
she sees it as evil. It's not that it's weak. Look, the way it works is her 8th function is FI. You see your 8th function as evil. Like for me, I see SE.
It's a demoniac.
I see SE as evil. You see FE as evil, extroverted feeling, like schmoozing people. And your daughter sees FI, putting your value in your own interests, as evil. So it's going to become conflict.
And for a TI person, because she's totally logic-based. And then when she's not in logic mode, she's in SE mode, which means that she's totally hands-on and she's totally not even thinking. She's sensing, and that's a whole nother story. But the point is that NE is big enough to absorb whatever someone else's functions are, because we are the most open-minded people on the planet. There is no one more open-minded, unless I put it like this: how you've been raised. My mother was an ISFJ. So being raised by SI had a big deal. Like, it affected me a lot, and it did make me a little more close-minded. But NE is huge. It is huge, and I love it. It saves me. FI helps me to deal with, and going back to why ENTP would seem more rebellious than an ENFP. Sometimes I seem really rebellious to my family because my mother, she has FE as her auxiliary function or her creative function, and so she parents me in FE, and my whole life has been about these social norms, about doing the right thing, about what do we do and how do we make everybody feel good, whereas FI is totally opposed to that. So I've appeared rebellious to my family my whole life, whereas I'm really not. But if I can appear just as rebellious as TI, it just depends on the value base.
Look, here's the thing. FI is all about, if you have as your first 2 functions NE and then FI. Let me look at this document that I'm making so I can see what I have written down. But it basically, you can understand it as any FI is authenticity. Okay, talking about authenticity.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Authenticity about talking. Yeah. And TI SE is legitimacy of doing. So in other words, you're talking about it's real, and he's saying, but it's not fair, or she's saying it's not fair, or she's interested in issues of fairness with the thing removed from the individual, which is to say, removed from issues of authenticity in the particular moment.
Exactly.
And you care about making sure everyone's words reflect authenticity, namely their authentic FI feelings. Now, the thing is, I'm blind to authenticity. I can't tell what's authentic to me, really, because it's my
FE in your third.
Yeah, so I have FI polar.
Not about that. Yeah,
I've got FI polar, so that means I don't really know what I value and don't value, and that's why ENTP is more rebellious. It's because since they don't cling to any particular position on stuff, because we're very detached from everything.
And y'all don't need that.
And because we're
logic-based.
Right, well, because we're just not attached, which means polar FI, which means we don't get really attachment, we don't understand it very well, and because we have extroverted intuition, which is taking metaphysical action, coming up with new ideas about via which judging function? Via TI, which is about consistency or legitimacy across frames of reference without people's interest. So as a consequence, what we do is come up with ideas about legitimacy as a means of getting people to like us, or at least getting them to respect us or something. It ends up playing out, though, the other way. We don't do FE that well at first, so we don't get that being mindlessly rebellious.
So you have to grow into it.
Yeah, well, you gotta grow into it. And so at first we're like rebellious because we're trying to show off, and it's not working very well. And
but you can show off. Can you imagine NE and TI together? When me and my daughter are together on the same page, when she was a little girl and she hadn't really come fully into herself yet, and we would invent things like, this is how I know that NETI is inventive personality type, because when my NE would click up with her TI, we would actually invent toys. We've got toys that we've invented. We have got games we've invented. We have got books we are very, very creative together when we stay away from FI issues.
but see, look, you know what that is though? That's not the TI and the NE working together. That's the NE and the FI and the SE working together. So your daughter, yeah,
I don't know.
because look.
Why do you think that?
Well, okay, because TI is useful for this kind of stuff, parsing out what the correct interpretation is or incorrect interpretation in relative to some other thing we agree about. Okay, so it's like if we both agree about X, then I can make arguments that say, well, because X means this, then we should interpret Y as the following thing. So I might say, well, you might say,
it's more of a precision function.
Well, yeah, because I'm saying like, well, extroverted intuition is more about is the creative part of it, really. That's the creative part about ideas.
Yeah, we agree on the NE part.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out about the SE. You think the SE plays a part?
Yeah, because look, there's two kinds of action. There's coming up with ideas action, that's NE, and then there's implementing it into the real world action. That's SE. You can think of SE as being
potential energy and what's the other one? Kinetic.
You think about SE as being following through on that which has already been decided. Whether it's in the moment, like jumping on an opportunity, that's SE. Like, you know, you're SE Dom, you're at the bar and you see some chick at the bar and you go,
make an immediate decision and doing something,
you don't,
not just thinking about it.
You don't say words to yourself in your head. You walk over there and go, hey, did you get that jacket at blah, 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 blah? I think I saw one like it there. Oh, really? I'm American. And then before you know it, you're slaying the puss again or whatever. That's what SE Doms do, right? Because they take action. They don't think about it. They don't reflect or deliberate or create meaning to consider. They just act. It's following through on that which has already been decided. So the best person for a job that's repetitive, like every day you go and you mow all these different parts of the park, that's the SE person's thing, that they feel comfortable following through on what they already know is going to happen, just doing it, just do. So that's SE. What happens then with NE is we can't stop coming up with possibilities long enough to do any of them. Because we think extroverted sensing is evil. I think it's evil. You have extroverted sensing. Oh yeah, you do too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my DNA.
So like we'll tend to frown upon stuff we see as barbaric.
It's very uncomfortable. It's not that I so much think it's evil. I see where it can be beneficial in a very limited way. I think it's reckless, but it's reckless in the way. It's reckless in the opposite way that NE is reckless. I think NE can be very reckless as well, but you don't see a fallout behind NE that you see behind SE. Like my daughter will say, SE, when SE is in control, she's TI-SE. So when she lets her SE out, she's going to see the fallout behind operating in that function. She can operate in SE for a limited amount of time. So she wants a motorcycle. She wants to jump out of planes. She wants to put out fires in the forest. She wants to do her SE leads her into wanting to do these dangerous things that are very, very fulfilling.
But look, it plays out very differently in the first function than it does in the second function. The first function is impulse. The first function, what you described, is exactly right. We're impulsive, they're impulsive. SE Doms and NE Doms are all impulsive. The difference is we're impulsive and it comes out as a bunch of words. They're impulsive and they do shit like commit a crime. Because, you know, when an ENTP is really angry and just totally acting out of character and wow, well, that guy needs to get a hold of himself, he's screaming fancy words at people.
Right.
Whereas with an ESTP, when they're in that moment, that bad moment where they're not really in control of themselves and they're just acting out of rage,
they hurt themselves.
Yeah, well, they're beating the shit out of somebody or whatever, you know?
Or themselves. They're very hard on themselves.
But see, that's second slot. That's second slot. That's not first slot. First slot isn't hard on themselves. First slot, because their dominant nature is to just do what's in front of what's been decided already, they don't, they're not nearly as reflective as ISTPs. ISTPs are much more reflective because they have doing as their tool function, and their dominant nature, their core nature is the legitimacy of what they're doing. So it's legitimacy first, doing second. If you have SE first, then the TI just serves to justify your SE. Oh, well, here's why I did it, and here's why it's okay.
Exactly. And that's what my daughter said. She's like, she'll do something. Well, she'll say her TI will tell her, don't do that. Like, her SE wants to get out, and she's like, her TI is like, don't do that. And then she overrides her TI and does what SE wants to do. And then TI comes on the back and is like, I told you not to do that. So, like, she's in a constant battle, very, very conflictor functions. But I have conflictor functions, too, because my NE and my FI.
You do, for sure.
We're conflicted as well. Like, you have probably the most, I would say with NE and TI, they probably play very well together, and there are not a lot of issues. Other than TI can be very limited, but NE needs to be limited. And sometimes NE needs to be honed in, and because both of those are such cerebral functions, it's like all of it's in your head. So you're in your head 100%. I'm in my head most of the time, but I'm in my feelings too. So it's a very conflicted type situation.
Here's the thing. You are, as your dominant nature, metaphysical action. But as your second function, you've got physical, emotional metric, then you've got a physical personal metric, then you've got a physical external metric, and then you've got in the fourth slot physical knowledge. So you go metaphysical by nature, and then everything you have then the rest of it is all physical. So it's like, I act metaphysically, but I judge personal stuff physically, I judge external stuff physically, and I know physically.
But when I'm not let me say it like this. When I get in my loop, I'm in my NE loop. TE is my third function. When I'm in my loop, and I'm in a loop usually when something is not personal. So I can be at work and I'm in a loop. If it's just work and I'm off into creativity and I get into my third function, which is TE, I am just super okay. Like, it's a very comfortable place to be. And most people don't like loops, but that particular loop for me, that NETE loop, makes me super creative and super productive. But I can't stay in it long because it's very, very draining. But my FI is what grounds me and makes me human, because I'm not trying to be funny, but NE is really not human. I mean, it's not a human function. It's so big and so out of this world. I don't feel particularly human with NE. I feel very extra.
The thing is, I've heard this from a lot of NE users, especially NE DOMs. You read people say this. I've heard people say, like, they felt very out of place and they felt very isolated in the sense that they didn't think that there was really anybody else like them. And I certainly felt that. And of course,
I've never met anybody like me, but I mean, the internet opens up a lot of possibilities that you do see people that are not like you. Like I said, being black in the South and being very, I see limited personality types, but on the internet you get to see people from all over the world, and you do see other people that are like you. I was super excited to see you although you're NETI, but it's still, I can feel because I'm FI.
I'm FI heavy. I'm a heavy FI ENTP. You'd be surprised how FI I am.
But the thing is, like, FI can feel, like, I tell my daughter this all the time, I can feel where people are. So a lot of stuff on the internet is completely wrong. Just like you were talking about the MBTI socionic issue with TI being subjective, objective. Like, I can totally understand that because a lot of stuff I see online, I know it is not particularly true because if I can feel a person's personality type. Now, I know that sounds weird, but because I'm educated in MBTI and sociology, I can feel what a person is. Like, I can totally grasp them if I talk to them for a while. Because at first, when I saw you online, I was like, he's not. Like, I looked at you first, and I said, he's not like ENTP. And then as you started speaking, then I grasped the NE. But your TI is pretty strong, too. So, I mean, but like all the stuff you were talking about debate, and you start talking about...
That's why my TI is strong. That's why my TI is unusually strong for an ENTP, is because I'm a debate coach, which is basically, debate is TI. It's...
But let me qualify that. Debate is also NE, because I have people tell me all the time, they get pissed at me because I just want to hash out stuff and talk about stuff, and I'm not mad about anything. I just want to talk about it. I can fuss with you all day. We can fall out completely. But as long as we're getting somewhere as far as learning, like what I learned from you earlier about TI, like that would piss somebody else off and make them hang up the phone. Like there are a lot of people who cannot take if you come against something that is perceived to be the standard for something. They can't think outside the box. But any is very debate oriented in the sense that any just wants knowledge, and it wants to hash knowledge. It wants to put the knowledge out there. It wants to speak knowledge and gain knowledge.
It wants to ideate.
Knowledge.
It wants to ideate, which means basically come up with ideas and talk about ideas and shit like that.
Because and it's a brainstorming function, but it is also a debate function, because to truly brainstorm, you have to be open to conflict. Like I tell people all the time, I don't have to agree with you, but I can agree to disagree with you. I can listen to everything you say and see parts of what you're saying. I don't have to agree with you in order for us to be friends. I can totally disagree with you all day long, and any is still fine. Any is not subjective in the sense that it makes judgments like that. And it can stay open. It doesn't have to have closure. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be wrong. So it makes it great for debate in the sense that TI can be very closed. It is great. TI is a good debate function, but it's too limited. Without any TI would be nothing with debate. I mean, let me say nothing, but it would be limited.
I mean, obviously, the difference between ISTPs and ENTPs is the ability to come up with the ideas that they dissect. So the reason ENTPs and INTPs are the best debaters, generally speaking, is because ENTPs and INTPs, when they're faced with an argument they haven't encountered or prepared for, they intuitively get what constitutes a good response. And it just comes to you, you know?
I agree, because you have an improv feature in any. Like, I can improv. I'm much better, like, if I'm speaking, I'll have bullet points that I'll put on index cards, or I'll speak from a PowerPoint with bullet points. Because if I try to speak from a speech or speak from something that's predetermined, it feels very... it almost feels like being in jail. I can't, like when I was little, I couldn't do Easter speeches and Christmas speeches because I didn't want to memorize things. I don't want to memorize anything. I want to memorize it, but then I want to paraphrase it. And so it's very hard for me to...
That's SI. You don't want to do that stuff. Anyway, hey, listen, I gotta go. I'm gonna put this conversation up as a video, though, if the sound came out okay.
Do you see my phone number? Like, call me anytime. I'm gonna text you now that I have your phone number, and we can get together and do videos. Like, Or just talk. I'm good. I don't have to do a video.
Oh, okay. Well, but hey, what's your name that you want to be known as on the video? First name or whatever.
Let's call me Unicorn.
Unicorn it is. All right, ENFP Unicorn. I'll probably stick that in there somewhere to distinguish you from, to point out that, because we have another person who includes Unicorn in their name.
Call me Yvette the Unicorn.
Yvette the Unicorn. You got it.
Yep.
All right, it was really nice talking with you, Yvette the Unicorn. And talk to you later. Bye.
Later.
Yvette the Unicorn. Yvette the Unicorn. Okay, I'll have to remember that. Yvette the Unicorn.